name is Jakoubi, and I want to tell you about 200 stories of women in IT, and we call it like we are no aliens, because we are not. First, I want to tell you something about me. I started as a developer a long time ago, and I work in IT for over 10 years now. And the question I never really liked, or at all, was when someone asked me, how do you feel being a woman in IT? Because honestly, I didn't feel different. It was like the colleague next to me. I was a developer. I loved my job. I loved what I was doing, but gender was never an issue. And the second thing I have to admit, but it changed now, that I never understood the need and the meaning of female networks. And I'm passionate about security, making a difference, and now also supporting women in IT. So how did the journey started with these 200 stories? Actually, it started this year in February. We had our Sec for Dev conference, and the first time, or it was the third time at the conference, and we had a women's session. And for registration, we asked questions like, what would you like to hear? What would you like to see, and what should we talk about? And one question where I really got goosebumps and also a little bit sad was a woman texted like, I just want to hear from other women in tech so I don't feel as alone. And another question which popped up very, very often was how to find and bring more women into IT. And I found that curious because, I mean, it was that session was for women. There were a lot of women in tech in there, but I didn't know how to get more women in there. So I started a survey and collecting stories and going through these answers and experience. I always got goosebumps. So the first question I asked was, what was your first contact? How did you get in touch with the IT or computers? And there were a lot of different stories, but what came out was that 38% had the first contact at home because they got a computer at home, or the dad showed them, or the brother. So it was clear to me that home is a very, very important part of it, or was a very important part of it. And school, it was the second part, but the experience in school was most of the time bad. So I wouldn't say it was a good influence, but it was the first contact having with a computer. So when you take a look at the bottom, the plus sides or the positive experience they had was playing around with the computer, playing some games, trying to figure out how the games work, maybe a little bit programming, just watching the parents, what they do at the computer, or playing around like tipping some things or moving the mouse. So at home, there was always some positive connection with it. And what you see at the right side, the more negative, was these 25% at school. So most of the women who answered didn't really like the experience they had at school, because it was most of the time some Microsoft Office tasks or just boring. Sorry. And then I tried to figure out how much the gender was or played a role in there. So I tried with the 38% from home. There was most of the time male contacts or male people who introduced the girls with IT. So what I also realized, there has to be a spark, because when I was reading what the women love about IT, all of them were passionate about it. So there was this spark. When I was reading the stories, there were all spark, but it wasn't always love from the first sight. So especially the experience from school, never were love at first sight. There are some two examples. So one woman texted that that it was just a joke, and that they got separated, the boys and the girls, and the boys were allowed to do some HTML, and the girls had to type with 10 fingers so they can be some secretaries afterwards. And you see the age there, it's not that long ago. So the woman who answered was between 25 and 35. And the second one, which was very negative, is it was just awful. And that at the end, that she completely fell in love with the IT. So you always have to give a second chance. And then I asked, what advice would you give your 15-year-old or 15-year-old girl to just try it out or take a look? And what nearly all of the time came, it was just do it and try it out, and don't be afraid. Like the last, what is it? Oops. So sorry. The statement that boys play with computers, but you don't have to play with computers to be a good scientist. And just do it. And the answers I love to read was like, what fascinates you most about your job? And they're always, I just picked some out of there, but the highlighted ones came over and over again. So it was these opportunities, this long life learning, always something new, the innovation part, helping someone else, solving problems, and also like having and creating a positive impact. And these endless possibilities you have in the IT, you can move from one topic to another. If you're interested in it, you can learn over the internet. You find so many free courses. Just do it. And I loved this. So I asked myself, how do I ignite that spark? Because all of these 200 women had that spark. And then I realized how lucky I was that I somehow wanted to study math, and then over a friend started studying software engineering, and I loved it immediately. So I think there all of us have to do our part and try to ignite that spark for girls and also for women. And then coming back to the topic network. As I said before, I never understood the meaning of networks and female networks. I always thought that you only talk about problems there. And starting the journey and collecting that stories and interacting with a lot of networks, I completely changed my opinion about that. So what the woman told me that, or I found 86 different networks worldwide, and that there's so many more. And with a lot of different focuses also, like you have networks for coding, learning how to code, involve your coding experience, and data science, entrepreneurship, women in tech, about career, how to break the glass ceiling, how you can get forward in your career. All that STEM part for girls. Do tiny projects and hackathons, networking in general, like just connecting with other women, and like the statement at the beginning that the woman just wanted to find other women who are like her. So having networks to just connect with someone else, security, and also about technology. So if someone of you wants to have that huge list with a lot of links and names, feel free just to contact me, and I'm going to send you the list afterwards. So the top 10 networks were female founders, women tech and UAT girls, female coders, and also women in ICT. I have to admit it was a little bit biased because some of that networks also send it out my survey, so I'm aware that it's a little bit biased. But I think that I got a list of 86 different networks shows how broad the landscape of networks is, and how many opportunities to have to connect with people. So I guess there has to be one network you find which fits to your needs or what you're looking for. And they are very, very powerful. I've never thought about that before. So something else I wanted to display with the survey is to show how diverse these jobs in the IT are. What are your opportunities? What can the jobs look like when the job title sound like? So I found 107 different job titles, and I know that some of them there, like you have junior and senior. I have all of them in there just to show women and girls how much you can do. And also 70% of the positions were in leading positions. And I think it's also important to show that you can be a CEO, you can be a founder, you can be a CTO, and there are a lot of opportunities in there. Just to give an overview who participated in that survey, I was impressed that I also got answers from women who are over 56 years old, and most of the participants were between 25 and 35 years old. So I'm still collecting the stories. My goal is to show women and show girls how cool the IT is, how much you can do, that when you start working in the IT, for example, as a software developer, you don't have to do that your whole life. You can change, you can move somewhere else, you can move to a project manager, you can move to maybe data science or AI. So there are so many opportunities, and that's also what the women told me, that you can do whatever you want if you're in there, because courses are free. There's so many courses where you can learn something new, and then also like apply for different jobs. So that's what I want to show with that survey, and also with that stories, that it's the future. So if you want to share a story, I would love to have more than these 200, and just use the QR code, or you can also connect with me on LinkedIn and tell me your story there. So I now have to take a look what your questions are, because I couldn't see them before. Oh, hey, Sue. So yes, I'm going to the survey, or the examples are quite new, so I'm still collecting stories, and I always frequently share the insights on LinkedIn if you need something. And I think what I want to say with that, and what I wanted to collect with that, is that we are all women in IT, and we all love it so much there. So we just have to talk about it, and then tell girls, or also other women, what you can do and why do you love your job so much. And I think that's the best like advertisement you can do. And just be a role model or a mentor. You can be both at the same time. So if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat. Can we get the slides? Yes, you can get the slides afterwards. And you can also get the list of the networks if you like. Just write me a text on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to share them with you. Yes, the question about what about women in tech in general? So my focus was on women in IT, but it was not only just the ones who are very, very technical. It was also like I had job descriptions or titles from human resources, communication, PR. So it was quite broad, and the focus of that survey was really like just the IT. But I want to do another one. And what was also interesting to hear, or to see, is that it does make a difference where you're from. I didn't ask about the country, but in the stories I could read out that I think we are, especially in Germany, Austria, and also Switzerland, we're a little bit behind. So we have definitely less women in IT than some, for example, some Eastern countries. Have you asked for bad experience? No, not this time. I wanted to have some positive. So the goal was to tell the stories and bring more women in and girls into IT. So the focus was on definitely on the positive side and not on the bad experience side. But I think that's what you have also, for example, the networks for, to share also the negative aspects, maybe find help and tips. So, but I'm gonna think about how I can include that maybe in another survey. So just going through the comments. Just feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm gonna pop. And what I also telling all the time, like I started the survey in end of February, and I got in touch with so many women and so many incredible women in IT I never had before in the 10 years before. So also when someone is saying like, yeah, we didn't find a woman as a speaker, it doesn't count for me anymore, because there's so many. You just have to ask the right questions and ask into the right group, or ask the right groups to find speakers. So if you need any help there, you can contact me as well. So, Miley. Yes, you have to get them from the groups. Yeah, so you're right. It's like you said, I guess the challenge is to encourage 15-year-old girls to be interested, to try it out when they have condition not to. Yeah, that's how do you ignite that spark? That's the hard part to do. And I think it depends on the girls, or also on the boys actually, but it depends on the people and on the kids. What I love to see is that there are so many like hackathons at the moment going on, where they just can solve problems. And I think that's a good way to start, like solving problems or being curious how something works. How does that game work like it works? And telling especially the kids that they're not only consumers, they also can be creators. And that's also a way to start. If there are some creators and they writing texts, I think it's a start at least, and they're getting in touch with the computer, creating pictures, sharing that. But it's definitely hard to. I think, and that's why I wanted to give the talk, because I think we all have to work together. All women in IT have to tell their stories, and the people have to see why they're so passionate about it, why they love it so much that they maybe try it out. And I mean, we do explain to kids how the world works, so we just have to tell them how the digital world works as well. Thank you so much for being here and listening. I'm going to share the slides. You're going to find the link on my LinkedIn page probably. And if you have any questions, or you want to share your story, you want to share your experience, pop me a question. Thank you so much and have a nice day. Enjoy all the other talks, and I'm happy to get in touch with you.